Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. If you can hear me okay, if you could just type in the chat real quick, just want to make sure my AirPods have connected properly. All right, got some thumbs up there. Okay, great. Well, welcome to the webinar. My name is Jess Larkin, and today we are going to talk about putting together a marketing strategy for open enrollment that's focused on both client retention and your new sales. Excuse me. I've included some free downloadable resources in the handout section of the webinar dashboard, so be sure to check those out. You can just download them right from here, as well as a copy of the presentation. So all the slides that I'm about to show, that's also in the handout section of GoToWebinar as well. Before we get started, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can type them in the chat box and I will address them at the end. If I don't get to your question, I'll be sure to reach out to you after the webinar through email. Make sure you get your answers. This webinar is being recorded and it's going to be emailed within 1 to 2 business days. It's also going to be available with the rest of our webinar recordings on the Cornerstone Resource Center if you haven't been there already, and the Cornerstone YouTube channel. So I encourage you to visit the website and catch up on any of the recordings that you've missed this year. We've had a lot of really great webinars, and we have a bunch more coming up in the next couple of months to help you prepare for the open enrollment season. So please be on the lookout for those emails coming soon, especially in the Monday Minute. This webinar is going to be talking a little bit about open enrollment, but nothing on the actual sales side of things. So just to keep that in mind, we're going to leave that one to our broker advisors and individual experts. But this will be talking about marketing. We're going to cover a number of different topics today, including some basic information, like I said, about 2026 open enrollment, a workflow for streamlining your client communications during open enrollment, and strategies to reach new clients. And at the end, I'm going to address any questions you might have with the Q&A. But before we begin, I just want to do a very quick poll of who actually does all of your marketing. So let me go ahead and launch the poll and go ahead and answer the question on your GoToWebinar dashboard. Who's in charge of your marketing? Do you have a marketing expert on your team? Do you do it all by yourself? Do you hire an agency? Do you not do any marketing, but you'd like to start? Or do you just not do any marketing? You're just not even interested. This webinar might not be for you if you fall into that bucket. All right, this is what I expected. A lot of people who do everything all by themselves. Yep, that makes a lot of sense with this industry, which is great because this webinar is going to focus on things that you actually can do, things that aren't going to get in the way of your already busy fourth quarter. So during this webinar, we're going to talk about strategies that are going to be helpful for communicating with your current client base, as well as strategies that will help you reach new clients. These strategies are going to be more geared towards individual health insurance brokers, like the specific strategies that I talk about. But everything I'm going to talk about will be applicable for employee benefits and Medicare brokers as well. So there's different ways to make all of this work for you, no matter what your book of business is. If you have any questions about how you can apply these recommendations to your own client book, feel free to leave a question in the chat and we can address that at the end. All right, yep, lots of people who do it all by themselves, a couple people who have an expert on their team, which is so nice, but nobody who doesn't do any marketing, which is great to hear. Open enrollment is just around the corner, and it's time to start working on your communication strategy. Open enrollment for the 2026 plan year will run from November 1st, 2025 to January 15th, 2026, with a deadline of December 15th for plans with January 1st effective dates. And depending on the size of your client book, that date may have just sent a shiver down your spine. It's that time of the year when the coffee is on all day and a few of your weekends may be a little bit less than relaxing. I'm not going to speak, like I said, to any carrier or legislative updates in this webinar. I'm going to leave that to my colleagues, who are the true subject matter experts. In fact, the individual team just recently hosted a webinar in the individual corner about the latest CMS updates that were introduced as a result of the big, beautiful bill that was passed in July. I encourage you to check that out using the QR code on the screen or by visiting the Cornerstone Resource Center or the YouTube channel. Our team is going to continue to provide updates like this as we inch closer to open enrollment. So make sure that you're subscribed to the Monday Minute newsletter if you haven't already. That's where we're going to be sending out all this information that you need to know about open enrollment. I, however, am very happy to talk about the best marketing strategies for communicating with your current clients and reaching new clients. A lot of what I'm going to talk about today is very basic and very user-friendly use cases that use more advanced strategies. So these recommendations are going to be best served for those who might already have a website or might benefit from a social media presence. So this is mostly for those of you who already have that kind of stuff established. If you don't, that doesn't mean that this webinar isn't going to be helpful for you. It just means that you have a step to take before you can do most of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about. So first, we're going to talk about communicating with your current clients. The goal is to streamline those communications. So open enrollment is the most important time of the year to communicate with your clients, even the low maintenance clients who only renew their plans each year without much thought behind it. This is a great time to touch base with each client and give them an opportunity to speak directly with you about their concerns. And if you have a large book of business, I'm sure that sounds like an actual nightmare. You want me to talk to every single client? Not exactly. I want you to provide an opportunity to communicate with each client, and that doesn't have to happen by playing phone tag with everybody. The goal of the strategy that I'm going to talk about is to streamline your communications so you can give each of your clients the attention they deserve. The process needs to be sustainable, and it can't take away from the work that you need to do during the fourth quarter. So how can we automate your communications so you don't have to play phone tag with your clients and waste your time scheduling all of your appointments? Well, I'll show you. This is a very simple but very sophisticated system that you can use to spearhead your communications with your clients about their health insurance plans. This system involves reaching out to the client, providing them with the details and information they need to be prepared for the open enrollment season, and giving them the opportunity to schedule one-on-one time with you to review their plan. But you're probably asking, how is that any different from what you typically do year after year? Well, this system takes advantage of automations, and these automations are available with the most basic and free marketing software that you can find on the internet. So let's walk through this workflow. First, you're going to send out an email to each of your clients. The email will include basic information about open enrollment for 2026, a link to fill out an online form with their most updated information, and a link to schedule their one-on-one review. And then the client is going to receive that email and click on the links to fill out the form and select a date or time for their one-on-one review, should they choose to schedule one. Once that form is submitted, they receive a follow-up email confirming that the form has been submitted and that you're going to see them for their annual review. If the client does not submit a form, they'll receive an automated follow-up email 1 or 2 weeks after the initial email to remind them to fill out the form. The idea is to set up the process at the very beginning and let it work for you while you start working on your renewals and what really matters. It all seems pretty simple, or maybe it doesn't, we'll see, but that's the beauty of it. So let's walk through each piece step by step. First, we have the communications or the initial outreach by email. I've provided a template that you can download for this piece of the workflow. You can just copy and paste that text and kind of finagle it however you need to for your client base. Like I said, that's in the handout section on your GoToWebinar dashboard to download any of the materials that I talk about today. This is an email that you send to your clients using some sort of email marketing software, and I have some recommendations for tools and resources at the end of this section of the presentation, so bear with me. You will need an updated email list for all of your clients that you'd like to reach out to. If you don't have an email, you can reach out via phone and see if they're willing to provide one for more streamlined and efficient communication. Regardless of whether or not this workflow will work for you, having those emails is extremely useful for your marketing. So this is something I recommend anyway. You can also do a print letter for the initial outreach and mail it out to your clients, but it may be pretty expensive depending on the size of your book of business. If you do print letters in lieu of emailing, we highly recommend Quality Publishing or Allegra for your print jobs. They do a great job getting all of that stuff out with a bunch of variable data in the letters. They can do it all. But like I said, printing these might be pretty expensive. The cost of postage goes up every year. So you're looking at a pretty penny in order to get these out via mail. In this letter, you're going to want to include as much information as you can to ensure that your client has what they need ready to go before meeting you. I recommend including open enrollment dates, so highlighting that the deadline for January 1 effective dates is December 15th, and just any other information they need to know about those dates. And if they miss it, then they might have to go to special enrollments. And any other general information about open enrollment. What is open enrollment? What does that mean? Because even this most basic information, a lot of your clients might not know. You might want to talk about any pertinent legislative changes that may affect your client's plans in 2026. So if there's something that is a hard and fast rule that is definitely going to be happening in 2026, this might be a good opportunity for you to let them know about that and let them know that this is a good time to chat with you, regardless of whether or not they want to make changes. You want to talk about any communications that they might receive from carriers in regards to their renewals. So if they're going to automatically renew their plan, they might receive an annual notice of change from the carrier. So that's good for them to know, especially for them to send it over to you so that you can keep that documented. And then you want to talk about any next steps that they should take in order to get their health insurance plan locked in for 2026. So instructions to update their household income, a link to the form to fill out all of their information and meet with you, and instructions to schedule that meeting with you, that one-on-one meeting. So that would be all in the initial communications that you send out. This is you saying, hey, open enrollment is almost here. Here are the things that you need to be aware of. Next is this online form that I keep talking about. The email that I talked about will include a link to a form. This template is also available in the handouts, a little bit more fleshed out actually in the handouts. So please feel free to download that and use it for your own communications. You can apply it to an online form or you can provide a print form. This form enables you to prepare for meetings with your clients and reduce the communications needed with those clients who may not want to make changes for their plan. This is also a really great way to ensure that you're keeping your client list updated with their latest information each year. So like I said, having that email list, having a list of all of your clients' emails is really helpful, not just for this, but for a lot of other communications as well. This is a great opportunity throughout the year in order to get that information from them. One pro tip that I would like to offer is to also have a paper version of the form available upon request, should your clients ask for it. If you don't have clients who are very tech savvy, then it's nice to have that available so that you can just quickly send that over to them. We want the form to include any information that would be helpful for you before meeting with them. I know that you're only going to have access to certain information at a certain time, but any kind of preparations that you can do ahead of these meetings makes it a lot easier for you when it gets to the height of fourth quarter and getting very busy around that time. So I would ask for their name, their phone number, email address, any changes that they've had to their doctors or medications throughout the year, whether or not they're satisfied with their current plan, and if they'd like to schedule time to review it with you. If they're interested in any supplemental coverage, this is a great way to upsell. And any other comments or questions that they might have that they can leave in just like a short form answer box. Open it up to them being able to ask you any questions, whether that's from an educational standpoint or asking you more specific questions about their plan. Next, we have a calendar booking system. So I keep talking about a link for people to be able to schedule a one-on-one meeting with you. The reason that we want to use a calendar booking system is so that you can avoid that back and forth with your clients to try to find a date and a time that works for you. Those emails or those phone calls in order for you to try to scramble to figure out what day. A calendar booking system like Calendly or Google Calendar now offers a system as well, is an appointment scheduling software that streamlines booking processes. It reduces your no-shows and improves customer convenience and saves time because they send automated reminders and confirmations about these meetings. Some Cornerstone representatives are set up with Calendly, which is one of the more popular softwares that you can use, and it is free. And they are thrilled with how much less back and forth they have to do. Lael Reitler, who many of you might have spoken with, she's our ICRA specialist. She's very, very busy, and she wants to make time to meet with any interested brokers who might want to sell ICRA, so she can give them the proper education and resources they need. She sends them a link so that she doesn't have to worry about that back and forth. And she receives a lot of phone calls, so this does a great job of making it all a very efficient communication, and it makes it really easy on the person that's interested as well. Your calendar booking software like Calendly or Google Calendar, like I said, will link up with your current appointment calendar. So if you use Outlook for your calendar, or if you use Google Calendar, your software is going to link up with those calendars. So all of your new and existing meetings will show as unavailable to any clients who try to book with you at those times. You're also able to set availability for your day. So if you'd like to take some time off around lunch, for example, you can set boundaries on the system to let it know that you won't be taking appointments at those times. And the same goes for holidays. If you need to take PTO, things like that, you just have to tell the system that those days and times are off limits and they will not show up for your clients. And of course, these links can be used outside of open enrollment. So while it is super helpful for this scenario, it's not exactly, it's not made for just that situation. You can use this throughout the year. And on the right, you can kind of see an example of what this looks like. This is something that you would link to in that email. And you would say, here, click here to book some time with me. And your client would see a page very much like this that is linked up with your calendar. They can't see any of the appointments on your calendar. All of that is private. They can only see the times that you're actually available. So they'll be able to click on a day that they think, oh yeah, I can meet with this person on Thursday in the afternoon, and they'll be able to see exactly how many, exactly what times you would be available to meet. So very much worthwhile. A lot of free systems out there, so this is not something that is going to take any additional capital, and very easy and user-friendly to use. You also want to make sure that you're automating your follow-ups and your reminders for your clients. For example, in the workflow, one of the steps is to send an email to those who have not yet filled out the form to remind them that they should do so and to set up a meeting with you. You would want to send that reminder maybe like 1 or 2 weeks after the initial outreach. These types of emails can be automated depending on which email marketing software you're using, and I'll have a few recommendations listed on the screen in a few minutes. You could also create reminders using that calendar booking software to remind your clients by text or by email that their appointment is coming up and the materials that they will need to prepare. On the screen is an example of what that looks like on the back end of Calendly. And as you can see, the system is very user-friendly. It's just saying, this is what I want the subject line to be, what I want the body of the message to say, just like you would send any other email. And you can very much customize it and include any information that you'd like. This is a lot how it works with any automated follow-up emails on email marketing software as well. You just basically create a second email blast and then just tell the system, hi, I want this to only go to people who have not filled out this form on this day. And it's that simple. So those are the main pieces that comprise this workflow that I'm talking about. It kind of seems a little bit confusing at first, but really what you're looking at is sending an email to your clients. And in that email, you have a link to have them fill out a form and have them choose a date to meet with you one-on-one should you want to, or should they want to. And then you just send some email confirmations to let them know that they did fill it out and that you will be meeting with them. And the purpose of this is to streamline everything, to make it so that you are not reaching out to everybody individually, one on one, through a phone call. You are still meeting with them face to face, or by phone, or, you know, uh, I was going to say Skype. Nobody uses Skype anymore. Zoom call, whatever it is that you use. Um, you are still doing that, but getting everything scheduled, getting everything prepared, that's what we're trying to automate. That's what we're trying to make sure goes smoothly, and that you don't have to keep your eye on all the time, because you have plenty of other things that you have to worry about during this time that aren't just scheduling. Um, so that is the whole purpose of what we're looking at here. A few other recommendations for things that you can do during OEP to communicate with your clients. On your website, consider putting a landing page. So a landing page could be just a page that's all about open enrollment. What is open enrollment? What can you do during open enrollment? What if you miss open enrollment? Deadlines, things like that. It's just basically their one information piece that you can send to people and that you can use in other marketing as well. You can also consider putting a countdown calendar on your homepage. It's just kind of a fun way to add a little something to your website, letting people know, hey, open enrollment is going to start in this many days, this many hours, whatever. Click here if you're a current client and you'd like to fill out your form and schedule some time with me. And you can also do some pop-ups or slide in reminders on your website. So a little pop-up that says, hey, reminder, open enrollment is starting soon. Make sure you schedule your annual review. Additionally, you can do a bunch of different things for engagement, like posting on your social media, letting people know when open enrollment is, the deadlines that are coming up, what can happen, different plan options available, things like that. I also highly encourage the use of thought leadership for health insurance brokers as well, because one of the best ways that you can market yourself is as a subject matter expert. So offering webinars like a health insurance 101 webinar, or a free download or resource about health insurance, just very basic information to help people become empowered consumers and better understand their health insurance. I always highly encourage people to put that information out there because, one, like I said, makes you a subject matter expert, but two, that is some of the most important information that people are looking for online, is to better understand their health insurance and figure out what the heck a deductible is. Here are the tools and resources that I was talking about. So all of that workflow can be made in something like HubSpot or Email Octopus. There's also a system called iContact that I've used in the past. Free systems depending on the size of your email list, but a lot of these email lists are quite large for the free versions. HubSpot is one that we use. We use the actual marketing hub, so we do use the paid version at Cornerstone, but it will do all of the same stuff with the free marketing hub, just for a smaller list. So you'll be able to do your marketing, you'll be able to keep client information in there. Obviously, don't keep everything in there based off of HIPAA, but you'll be able to keep basic information to keep track of your communications. You'll be able to create that online form using the fields that I have on that handout. You'll be able to build a landing page if you want to, if you don't have any access to the back end of your website. And you can create these very simple automations and workflows. And it's really just drag and drop. It's saying, here's this email, send this email 2 weeks after the initial email to this group of people who did not fill out this form. It is really just telling the system, this is what I want you to do, and dragging and dropping it into place. And HubSpot also uses AI now, a lot of AI in their backend to help users more effectively use their product. So if you were to go into the back end of HubSpot and use the automations tools and the workflow tools, you could just type into AI, this is what I want them to do, and it will generate the workflow for you. Same with Email Octopus, very simple drag and drop situation. Again, it's free. And both of these options are great for first time marketers trying to put something like this together. There are also those tools for booking meetings that I was talking about. Calendly is free. Outlook Book With Me, I'm not sure if that's free, but I do know that it exists. So if you already use Outlook, that might be something to look into. And then with Google Calendar, it's also free. So those are some good options to use for booking those meetings without having to do phone tag. And some other useful tools that I've used in the past for some design work is Canva, which is very basic design software, but it's does the job of, you know, what an Adobe InDesign or Photoshop would do. Very user friendly, perfect for people who don't actually do any kind of design. Highly recommend. And Google Forms are also very basic online forms that you can use. However, they're not as easy to create automations for. You would have to do some kind of coding or third-party app in order to do that. But it is available if you don't feel like doing the whole automation thing. Google Forms are a great option for offering a link to an online form. All right, I'm gonna go through a couple of questions here real quick. I thought OEP is reverted back to November 1 to December 15th, not January 15th. Have I missed another change? According to our individual experts in their most recent CMS webinar, the December 15th deadline will be for the 2027 open enrollment, not for 2026. So 2026 will still be from November 1 to January 15th. And then in 2027, it will be from November 1 to December 15th. How secure is HubSpot and Email Octopus? Is their security compliant with the state of New York cybersecurity? I'm not certain about the state of New York cybersecurity laws, but HubSpot for sure is a very secure platform. The only thing that they do not have is HIPAA compliance with their CRM. So that is something to keep in mind, that if you are going to use HubSpot for keeping basic client information, make sure it's just to communicate with your clients. You're going to want a more robust CRM for keeping actual information about their plan and about who they are elsewhere. So this would just be for marketing. As far as Email Octopus, I am not certain about the level of security. I do know it's a very popular option, so I would have to look into that a little bit more specifically. All right, let's continue on. Now we're going to talk about some prospecting strategies and delivering your message through digital advertising. So while print media certainly still has its place in marketing, making your mark in the digital world is far more impactful in today's landscape. So with a website and a social media presence, you have the tools you need to construct a long-term digital advertising strategy that helps generate brand awareness for your business. That's going to be the big key here, is brand awareness. There are two different types of digital advertising strategies that we're going to cover today. That's paid search and paid social. Out of curiosity, if you want to type in the chat, how many of you have tried either of these methods, either like Facebook ads or Google ads, and maybe what kind of success or non-success have you had with these types of advertising methods? Just curious. I've had a lot of brokers tell me that they've done some Facebook ads and not really gotten anything out of it. And same with the Google ads, and I'll tell you why in a little bit here. But I am curious how many of you have already tried this kind of stuff. All right, doesn't seem like anybody so far, which is interesting. So we'll be able to give you a ground view look at everything today, but both paid search and paid social advertising are accessible means of reaching a larger audience for health insurance agents, especially for agents like yourself who may not have done any kind of digital advertising in the past. Again, these strategies will be most effective for those of you who already have a user-friendly and functional website and a social media presence, or the desire to have a social media presence. So if you don't have any of those set up yet, I would focus on that first. Again, this information is still very helpful, but I would focus on getting your groundwork done. So getting your website put up and getting a social media page started. So let's talk about both of these, paid social and paid search, in detail. First, we'll start with paid search. Google is the most commonly used search engine and a competitive venue for advertisers. And while there's plenty of reason to still focus on your organic traffic to your website, so that's any non-paid traffic that you are getting to your site from any kind of SEO efforts, you're still going to need a good advertising campaign to get your search results to rank higher than the others. Paid search uses keywords on search engines, primarily Google, to deliver your message to the right audience using a pay-per-click system. The goal of paid search ads is to drive more traffic to your website, which will ideally lead to more conversions with the right setup of your website. There are other types of paid advertising options on Google, like video ads and display ads, but I'm just going to focus on paid search today because one, I think that's the most valuable for you. And two, we simply don't have the time to go through everything. Keywords are phrases or words that align with what a searcher wants, and it will satisfy their query. So, for example, if you need help with your health insurance, you might type into Google health insurance agents near me. On the screen is what you've probably seen plenty of times before when Googling something. This person typed in the keyword social media marketing. That's the keyword that they used, which brought up about 7 billion search results, which is a lot of results. And at the top of the results, you can see the search ads. These are the ads that were put together by these brands to compete for that top result on Google whenever someone searches for this keyword. And it looks like there are 3 possible ad spaces that these advertisers bid on. So Google said there are 3 spots available. Who wants it? And then these advertisers put these ads together and are competing for the top spot, or at least to even show up on the page. Below, you then see the results that were generated organically. So those results that were generated as a result of the website's SEO efforts while creating their website. So that's focusing on the language that your website is using, any of the images that your website's using, how quickly it loads, how easy it is to navigate. That kind of stuff is what will get you organically bumped more to the top of a Google search result. But it's pretty thoughtful effort that you have to put in. A basic website that you've put together, like with just an about page and just some basic services, will probably have some SEO efforts, like just from that baseline. But in order to really pop up in those rankings, you need to do some pretty specific work, like doing some paid search ads. So for paid advertising, we're going to talk about those ads at the top there that you can see. Google Ads work by bidding on keywords, ranging from a few dollars to a few hundred of dollars. When creating your ads, you will set a daily budget that the system will use to fund your bids, and this system will not exceed that bidding amount, especially if you're doing automatic bidding. And you will not have to spend hundreds of dollars per day in order to run Google Ads. You can do a lot with a minimal budget, so don't worry about that. Once a potential client then searches for something online using those keywords that you selected, while you put together your ads, Google then begins to rank advertisers by ad rank within the total amount of spaces available on the search page. So like I said, the search page, it seems like the Google has allowed 3 ads for this specific keyword. So they're going to rank the advertisers based on their ad rank and assign some to those spaces. And decisions for those ad ranks are based on a number of different factors, but most importantly is going to be the quality score of the ad and the amount of money bid on those keywords. Because the search results are based on quality and cost, you want to make sure that you aren't just running a campaign with every possible keyword under the sun. In fact, that's definitely going to hurt your quality score in the campaign. You want to be very thoughtful and very intentional with your keyword and budget choices. And there are definitely a lot of ways to do that. There's a lot of research that you can do on what are the most competitive keywords out there, and what is the typical spend for those types of keywords. There is one website, which I forget what it's. I think it's Moz Explorer. I'll write it down and I'll put it in the chat here when I have a second. But it'll help you find keywords for things that you're looking for, best keywords that you can use for something like paid advertising. And it'll say, this is how much budget that would typically cost. This is how competitive it is. You also want to make sure that you let your ads run. You want to give them time to mature and gain traction online. Stopping a campaign after only 2 weeks because you're not getting phone calls or website leads is very bad practice and only makes it more difficult for you to try this in the future. With paid search and any other kind of like website SEO effort, you're playing the long game. There are plenty of factors that will influence that campaign, but these are just a few important ones. If this is too much for you to take on as the person doing your marketing, but you still want to throw your hat in the ring and start growing your online presence, you can hire a professional to manage these Google ads for you, because the best Google ads, the best paid search ads, have some maintenance to them. So there is a maintenance cost, time cost associated with them. Cornerstone has worked with Walter814. I'll type them in the chat. I cannot recommend them highly enough. Walter814. I believe they're based here in Cincinnati, but they'll work with anybody in the tri-state area. And they ran our Google search campaigns for us, and we highly recommend their services. They'll run the campaigns, help you set a reasonable budget. If you tell them, this is what I'm aiming to do, what are the keywords I want to use, what would be a good budget for that. And they will also provide you with analytics at the end of each month to let you know how each campaign is doing, how, whether or not it's being successful. And if it's not successful, they'll meet with you and say, here's the strategy that we recommend. Highly recommend using their services. There are also a number of templates online that you can use to create your paid social ads. So your social ads are going to have a certain number of headlines and actual descriptions that you use. I can't get into all of that today because trying to pack in a lot of information into one webinar into an hour is really difficult. But there are a number of different templates online that you can use in order to create those ads. Next, we have paid social ads. I'm going to talk about Facebook and LinkedIn. Facebook is going to be the most effective for reaching businesses and individuals, and LinkedIn is going to be best for reaching business owners and decision makers. Paid social ads use social media as a low-cost way to meet your audience where they already are, and that's scrolling online. Crafting ads to reach users on social media can help you reach specific target audiences, especially by demographic. Facebook offers a number of different options for advertising, including photo ads, video ads, story ads, lead ads, and Facebook Messenger ads. These ads can be targeted to different audiences based on a number of factors. You can target based off of their demographics, so their age, their interests, geography, custom audiences who have previously engaged with your business in the past, and lookalike audiences which helps you reach new audiences that have similar interests to those clients who already follow you on Facebook. So that one's actually a very helpful audience targeting strategy if you already have if you already have a Facebook presence. If you're just starting out with social media advertising or you don't have a robust presence, I would recommend using Facebook's leads ads. Lead ads help you capture lead information without directing people out of the Facebook platform. So these ads allow you to share helpful content that encourages views to sign up for a newsletter, request a quote, request more information, and then the viewer would then fill out the form available, and then the lead is sent your way. An example of what this looks like is on the screen to the right. This is a lead ad from NerdWallet that is run on Facebook, Instagram, and Facebook Messenger. The ad contains helpful information that would be of interest to teachers, which is the demographic that they're looking for, with a button to learn more. So this ad is very much focused on education, not sales. And that's something that's very, very important for me to highlight right now, which is that when you're constructing your social media ads, you want to focus on education or entertainment. Remember that your users are scrolling through social media during their leisure time. They do not want to be sold anything or interrupted. They will only engage with what they're actually interested in. So make sure that your ads are focused on education or entertainment. Like I said, the target audience for this ad is teachers, so it's likely that NerdWallet targeted their campaigns towards a certain demographic on Facebook, probably women ages 24 to 50 or so, in very specific areas. This ad was probably served to their audience while they were scrolling through their Facebook accounts. The ad is designed to mimic the look and feel of a post that you might see from your friends. So it's not meant to stand out, it's meant to blend in so it doesn't look like you're being marketed to. So this is the type of ad that I would recommend. If you've never done these ads before, start with a lead ad and go from there. Start with just a lead ad targeting basic demographics for the buyer persona that you have in your mind, the kind of clients that you want to reach, and see how you do with that. With LinkedIn advertising, you're looking at sponsored content and messages. LinkedIn sponsored content operates very, very similarly to those Facebook lead ads, while the sponsored messages are more like direct messages sent to your target audience through the messaging app. You've probably seen those sponsored messages on your LinkedIn before if you do have LinkedIn. Whenever you open your page and you might see a message from somebody that you don't know, they might be telling you about an MBA program or an offer at a different agency. That's what the messaging ad is. But the sponsored content works a lot like the Facebook lead ad. You can see it on the right hand side. Very, very similar. It's meant to be within your Facebook feed as you're scrolling by. You can't really tell if it's an ad or if it's just somebody that you follow. It's supposed to look like it's native to your feed. LinkedIn also allows you to target audiences very similarly to Facebook, which means you can get pretty granular with your audience choice. LinkedIn separates its targeting by company, so you can reach key companies and decision makers by contact. You can securely upload your list of contact IDs or connect to your content management platform, and by retargeting. So you can segment your audience and deliver unique content based on actions that they've already taken with your brand. So retargeting people who have already interacted with you. So in the case of LinkedIn, if you want to get started with LinkedIn, I would recommend doing one of these sponsored content posts and just try to target audiences based on companies. This would be for employee benefits brokers. You're going to reach more of those decision makers using that target. In order to create a successful campaign, there are a number of factors to consider, including the buyer's journey. The modern consumer is more empowered and very discerning, and they are more likely to do a lot of research before deciding on a product or service. The buyer's journey describes the buyer's path to purchase from awareness to consideration to decision. So the awareness stage is when the buyer realizes that they do have a need or a problem that they need to solve. The consideration stage is when they research possible solutions for that problem. And the decision stage is when they evaluate their options and actually make the purchase. So targeting your advertising for new prospects should be along that buyer's journey. So how do you do that? Crafting a buyer persona for your ideal client can help you determine where they may be on that journey. This ensures that your ads make it to the right audience at the right time. You want to consider where you might find these audiences. Are they scrolling through Facebook, unwinding for the day? Are they intentionally searching the internet for more information about something? Paid search advertising is going to focus more on the intent of the buyer, and paid social advertising will focus more on targeting the audience's demographics and interests. Understanding your prospect's behavior is going to help you determine the right tools to use for each stage of that process. So if you're just wanting to find audiences in the awareness stage, you're going to have a different message and different tools and different advertising strategies for those groups than you would for people who are already in the decision phase and just need that last bit of encouragement to work with you. In the awareness stage, clients are realizing that realizing their problem and are looking for a solution. At this stage, you want your advertisements to focus on addressing that problem. So for health insurance, the problem might be, I don't understand health insurance, so I don't know how to choose a plan that works for me. Addressing the problem and offering your solution may be an ad that says, health insurance can be confusing. Check out this Health Insurance 101 guide to learn everything you need to know about health insurance. Targeting audiences in the awareness stage requires a larger net to be cast. For paid social, that means using lookalike audiences that match the demographic information of your current audience on social media, or by targeting demographics like location, age, gender, etc. And for paid search campaigns, that means using unbranded keywords, so not really mentioning your agency and the keywords, um, especially those that answer the question that's being asked. So if their problem is, I don't understand health insurance, you could use the keywords health insurance 101 or health insurance for dummies, things like that. That would be reaching people in the awareness stage. In the consideration stage, clients are aware of their problem and are committed to solving it. This is when you want your ads to show how your services are better suited for the client than the competition's. These ads would contain more specific branded content and would target or retarget those who have interacted with your brand before, not just those who have clicked on one of your ads. So for paid social campaigns, that could mean creating content for more specific audiences. And for paid search, that means incorporating keywords that are more specific towards your business, like health insurance agents near me. It's not, they're just trying to learn about health insurance. It's, I need to find a health insurance agent. And finally, in the decision stage, the buyer is evaluating their options and deciding. This is when you make your final push to your intended audience. On social media ads, you might offer promotions, obviously within the scope of compliance regulations, and other value ads that may set you apart from the competition. So maybe a webinar or a free download. And for paid search, you might use more branded keywords to catch the attention of those who already know about your brand or are interested in moving forward, but haven't hit that button yet. Determining where your audience is in the buyer's journey allows you to establish your targets more effectively. There are three different types of targeting strategies. So there's demographic, behavioral, and contextual. Demographic targeting, I've mentioned this a couple times, is most effective during the awareness stage of the buyer's journey and focuses on general characteristics about groups of people and populations. So that would be age, location, language, income, gender, etc. Behavioral targeting is most effective during the consideration and decision stages and targets relevant ads and marketing messages to users based on their web browsing behavior. So that could be previous search times, time spent on a web page, content interactions, last time they visited your website. But with Google's recent regulation updates, this one is kind of difficult to access. So behavioral targeting is not as common. They don't allow you to see specific users who visit your site anymore, which makes sense from a user standpoint, but from a advertising standpoint, it does make things a little bit more difficult. Finally, contextual targeting, which is best suited in the awareness stage, is the practice of placing ads on web pages based on the content of those pages. So, for example, if you're on the Cincinnati Business Courier site, you may see some native advertising on certain pages that are meant to look and read like standard content. So if you go to the business insurance page, they might have some sponsored content from a brand that paid for that spot, but it's still an article. It still fits in within the scope of the information that they're providing. It just happens to be sponsored and sent in by a brand, but it's still just as valuable. Once you know your targeting strategy, you can then begin to craft the correct message. You want to consider what your goal is for the ad. Are you trying to build brand awareness, generate direct leads, build up a registration list for a webinar? Regardless of your goal, you want your ad to stand out among the mess on the internet. So there are a lot of things that you have to consider. First, you want to keep your copy on the ad very short and very sweet. I know I've spoken with a lot of health insurance agents who have a tendency to use blocks and blocks of texts for their advertisements, for their emails, any kind of marketing. You don't need blocks of text. Keep it short, sweet, and to the point. People have very short attention spans these days, and you don't want to lose their attention. Next, you want to make your visuals pop. So as you can see, I've included the NerdWallet post again. These visuals are really eye-catching, especially with that tagline, teachers could pay off debt faster. That's going to immediately grab the attention of their ideal audience. And then finally, you want to have some call to action buttons. So these are things that encourage visitors to take additional actions based on their interest. So you have that learn more button at the bottom of this thing, of this post. But if you want them to join a webinar, you could say, click here to register, or click here to contact an agent, or something like that. You want to give them an opportunity to take action on what they're seeing. With all that information in mind, let's talk about what this would look like for a paid search ad that you create or a paid social ad that you create. So for a paid search ad, let's say that for our budget, we want to spend $10 per day and we want the bidding to be automated. So we want the back end of Google to take our $10 each day and say, spend this money and try to get us to one of those ad spots. Our goal is to generate leads using thought leadership. So we're providing an educational, a link to something educational on our website. We want to use Google search ads. And the idea is that we want to target people in the awareness stage. So we're going to use keywords that are like understanding health insurance basics 101, health insurance for dummies. And what that would look like from beginning to end is that the prospect will engage with our ad. So a prospect will search Health Insurance 101 on Google and to learn more about health insurance so that they can choose a plan. And they will see your ad on Google and click on it to learn more. The ad will lead the prospect to a landing page that was specifically designed for this campaign so that you can track your conversions and leads. And it has basic information about health insurance, contact information about the agency, and a sign-up form for a free webinar. Then your prospect will engage with that free resource. They decide to register for the webinar, especially since a recording will be sent to all their registrants. So they'll get the information even if they can't make it to the live presentation. The registration form also includes a checkbox to subscribe to the agency's newsletter for any additional educational content. And there you have your data collection for future communications. The prospect's name and email are now available for future communications to close the deal, all because you were able to spend $10 per day and focus on these specific keywords on Google. So you're basically having a situation where you have created an ad, encouraged somebody to click on that ad, and offered them something in return so that you can get their information and continue to speak with them. So they go from awareness to consideration, and eventually you can get them from consideration to decision. Next, paid social ad. So let's say we want to spend $25 per day and we want to do spend-based bidding. Again, sort of more of an automated way of doing things. You bid until the money is gone. We want this to run for about 3 months, and we want to generate leads using thought leadership. And we're going to use a Facebook lead ad with registration for a free webinar. So that button that we saw at the bottom of the NerdWallet post on social media says learn more. We want that to go to a registration page for a webinar. Again, we want to target people in the awareness stage. So we're going to use a lookalike audience based on an existing Facebook page. So, you know, my fake agency has a Facebook page that does pretty well. I get some good audience engagement. So I'm going to use a lookalike audience targeting method through Facebook. It's just a button that says use a lookalike audience to target new buyers. So for this, prospect will see my ad on their Facebook homepage to register for a webinar to learn more about health insurance so they can be a more empowered consumer. Prospect is then brought to a landing page that was specifically designed for this campaign, and they are able to sign up and engage with that resource. And then again, I now have that information, that data collection for future communications with them. I know that this was a lot of information in a very short amount of time. So I want to open up the floor for any kind of questions that you have. So we have a couple minutes here. Type them in the chat and I will go through them each one by one. All right. Will we have access to this webinar for review afterwards? Will the attachments be sent as well? Yes, the webinar is being recorded, and I'm going to send it in a follow-up email in the next day or two. It might be on Monday, but I will also include the attachments in that email, so you'll have access to them. But you're also able to download them right now from the handouts section and put them on your computer. So if you want to do that now, you can, but they will be in the follow-up. Does the ad have to run every day, or can you have the ad one or more days per week? I think it has to run on a daily basis. Um, I'm curious though, what your thought process is with doing it on specific days. Could you clarify that? Because I'm interested if you think an ad would be more effective on a specific day of the week. Would you be able to send the various vendors you mentioned as well? Yes, I will send a list of those vendors. I'll go ahead and put it back on the screen just in case you want to take some notes right now. But I'll put that in the follow-up email. Come on. There we go. These are all the vendors that I would recommend for the strategies that I've talked about today. HubSpot is definitely the one that I recommend the most. That's the one that I work in every single day. HubSpot is a great platform. Only issue is the HIPAA compliance thing, so you can't use it as a full-on CRM as a health insurance agent. But for marketing workflows and just managing your email marketing, managing your social media, things like that, even managing your online ads, you can do all that through HubSpot. It's like a all-in-one tool. So highly recommend. And then I also recommend Calendly. Calendly is super easy to use. I was a little bit concerned about getting it set up for some of the broker advisors because I didn't want to add to their plate, but there has not been a single complaint about it. It's so easy to manage. All right, any additional questions? I know this went pretty fast. It was a ton of information. So if you have anything. Cost $3,650 annually is a lot of money. What is the ROI on that? I mean, it really depends on a number of different factors. And there is a legitimate formula that you can use in order to determine the ROI of a paid search campaign on for whether or not it was actually worth it as for your marketing budget. But it depends on a lot of factors. It depends on how much focus you're actually putting onto the ads, because if you do kind of like a set it and forget it situation where you just like let the ads run for a long time and you don't do any kind of updates, you don't keep up with how well it's performing, I would say that your ROI is not going to be great. That's why I do recommend maybe outsourcing it to people if you don't have the time to check in on it every once in a while. Outsourcing it to somebody like Walter814 is a great option. But generally, if you are able to put in the time and effort to get that sorted, to get the correct keywords, make sure that your headlines are good, make sure that ad quality is high, your ROI could be really high. But like I said, a lot of factors roll into that, especially if you have a website. So if you have a website, I would look at that first. What does your website look like? Is it user friendly? Is it updated? Have you already been doing all of the SEO efforts on that end? If that's the case, then it's going to make your Google search ads a lot easier. Facebook ads are going to be a lot easier ROI and a lot less maintenance. So if you want to start with that, that's good to start tinkering with. And you don't need as much of a fully fledged website. It also very much depends on the messaging. So if you're putting messaging out there that just looks like everybody else's messaging, if you're not offering resources, if you're not adding any kind of extra value, you're not going to be seen. You're not going to get any kind of clicks on that. So it depends on a lot of factors. Any other questions? I didn't get anybody responding if they've done social media or Google search ads. I'm so curious if anybody has done those before. Because I'm really surprised. I feel like a lot of one thing that I really love about working with health insurance agents is that um, they're willing to try things, which, you know, kind of is a double-edged sword. They're willing to try things to try to see what will work, what won't work. But part of the problem is that sometimes they don't try it for long enough. So that was why I was curious to see if anybody's tried them and how long, and you know what their thoughts on it were. All right, it looks like that's all of the questions that we have for today. I appreciate everyone hopping on. I always have my email available, which is jlarkin@crnstone.com. I'll put that in the chat for you. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to talk about strategy. If you're already putting together your own strategy for OEP, I'm happy to look at everything and say whether or not it's, you know, if I have any critiques on it or if I can offer any help. So feel free to contact me if you have any questions. And I appreciate you all for joining. Oh, I did have one. Mainly interested in client retention at this point. Yeah, that's absolutely fair. If you're focused on client retention, I would definitely focus on the beginning part of this presentation. And actually, I have another webinar where I talk about omni-channel marketing that I think would be really valuable for you. So if you go to the Cornerstone Resource Center, it is one of the more recent broker essentials. I'll reach out to you specifically and send you a link to that. But uh, for client retention, it is mostly how can I optimize what I already have rather than paid advertising. How can I improve client communications? How can I make sure that my service model, my sales model, and my marketing model all work together in the same way, that I'm delivering a consistent message? How can I optimize everything? And once you've optimized everything, done what you can for your current client book, then you can move on to prospecting. So I will send you that. I do have your email, so I'll send you that specifically. If anybody else wants a copy of that, I can also put that in the recording follow-up, or I can send it to you. All right. I'm going to log off here now. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Thank you all for joining me today, and have a great day.